Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining. I'm Cathy, and this is a watercolor class, and we will be doing a step-by-step watercolor. I'll take you through all the steps, and then hopefully you'll be able to transfer these skills to something else that you're doing later, that you'll have a few extra tips and tricks and things under your belt that you can go ahead and have fun in other projects. Well, one of the things that I had asked people to have today is a spray bottle. So if you have a spray bottle and you just mist over your colors, it sort of gets them primed for using. So when you want paper towel, you'll want a blow dryer, and you'll want some salt. And our brushes and our water. So I have 2 containers of water. I just have 2 little buckets of water. They're not any specific anything. This is just what I happen to have. That's the size I use. Usually I like the bigger ones for acrylic, but I've just kept those on hand and keep using those ones. Brushes, paper towel, what else did I say? And a blow dryer. A blow dryer, if you've got one. So this painting, it's up on my screen, but I'd like you to know that I painted this picture 4 times. So that's 1. This is 2. This is 3. And the picture that I have up is the first one, actually. So if your tree line is in the middle, if that's where it ends up, that's okay. If it ends up more at the bottom, that's okay. If it's sort of mid-bottom, it doesn't really matter where you put your tree line. So my point of telling you that and showing you those is to let you know that this is not about perfection, and none of these are going to look identical. So if you're going to try and make something identical to what I'm doing, because we're using a spray bottle, because we're using salt, it's going to be random. It'll be whatever it's going to be. So let the colors flow and do what they're going to do, and just relax into it. So we'll just get into art mode. And before we do that, I just want to say thank you for being with me. I appreciate that. And thanks for those that have come on for so long. I've been doing this now for 3 years, and so thank you. You've been a blessing to me, and hopefully you've learned a good deal during the time that we've been together. So let's just get into art mode, and we'll take a deep breath in. And as we take a deep breath in, we'll hold it at the top. So raise your shoulders and really fill your lungs up, and hold it at the top for a moment. And then as you are ready to take a deep breath, just find something in the room that makes you smile. It just feels good. It changes your whole attitude, your mood, and it will help us to get into that mode for art. So first, deep breath in and hold it. And find something to smile about, lots to do in a second, and release. Really drop those shoulders down. We hold a lot of tension here, so try to release that. Second deep breath in, and hold it at the top, and smile, and release. And we'll do that one more time. Third deep breath in, and hold it and smile and find something that you like, and release that breath. When I look up, there's a silhouette of some trees above me that I quite like. It's just something that makes me smile. It's quite nice. A deep breath, and let's get into it. So thank you again for joining. So the color we're going to start with is a very deep blue, like an indigo or a black. So either, whatever you start with will be fine. So I'm starting just like you with a blank canvas, and I've taped all 4 sides. And the reason I've taped all 4 sides is because I want to have a nice frame around the edge when I take that tape off. So if you're when you're taping, if you tape your canvas, just really pay attention to the distance around on each side and try to keep it as straight as possible. And then I think you'll be very happy with your results. So with that, I'm actually going to start, I think I said an indigo. So I'm going to start with an indigo blue, which is really dark. And I'm doing wet on dry. So that means I'm using wet paint on a dry canvas. So I'm starting at the top. I'm using my number 6 brush. This is the biggest brush I've got. And I'm going to put the paint all the way across the top, right over to the other corner. So this is indigo. If you don't have indigo, if you have ultramarine blue, that will work. And from New Jersey, hi, welcome from New Jersey. New Jersey is very pretty. I've been there in the United States. So I'm bringing that down. I can bring it right down to the corner if I want, but I'm just filling in the top part. You can see that I'm not so concerned about it being perfect in tone and texture all the way through. We're just relaxing here, just letting the paint get on fairly dark. And if it's lighter and darker in some spots, that's okay. Right down to the other corner, just a little tip on the corner and then coming back up. Still working with a very dark color. So it's almost like a frame. And this will take you a few minutes to get this all on there. But the darkest spots we want to be in the corners and on the outside edge. So if you need to go ahead and fill a little more in, that's okay. Just add a little bit more. And you can see I'm not worried about perfection. I'm just getting the color on. There's a lot more process we're going to do with this before we're done. And if when you're painting, you get a little stressed out, just remember what we did at the beginning. Just take a deep breath, hold it for a second, find something to smile about and let it go. And I think you'll find that will help you move on. I've also asked for a red, and I have a color called carmine red. It's a little bit of a pinky red. And I'm just going to put a little stripe of that across the center. So I'm not even filling in all of the blue. And then because I have my canvas on an easel, I'm going to take it off the easel and I'm going to lay it flat. So it's laying flat. And I'm going to use my spray bottle. So I use my spray bottle. I'm just going to spray some water. I'm not spraying right at the colors, but I am spraying water so it starts to move. You can see it's starting already to move around the canvas. Now you'll have to do this very carefully. Have your paper towel handy because you might get some pooling in the corners. You see, and it might start to run like this. And so you'll want to catch it with your paper towel. But you're going to move your canvas around and let that paint move. If you need to use a little more water, spray a little bit more. And we're just going to tip that canvas around and let it move as the paint starts to fill all the sections. Now, if the paint's not completely filling, you can use your brush and your dark color and add a little more. Move some of that paint along the bottom. We just want to cover the white. I'm just really letting that paint move. I'm tipping the canvas. And I'm just helping it along a little bit just with my brush. And don't worry about those lines that you're getting in your canvas that are starting. You're getting a little bit of lines going up and down. That's okay. You can turn it on its end. And just let it all fill. And because you've got water on your canvas, you can see that it's moving. So let it continue to move. And if you need to, just use some paper towel, just tap off that excess that's coming down the sides. So you can see it's still running down here. And then I want to add fresh dark to the top corners, the top edge. I just want that to be really dark on the corners. And while it's still wet, I'm going to add salt. Well, I have a salt shaker. This is sea salt, and I'm just going to sprinkle out sea salt. And I can still let my canvas move, or let the paint move on my canvas. All right, so there's my canvas with my paint just all blurry. And I've got salt on there. The salt will lift the paint. When we look at a finished product, let me just find one that's finished here. The salt will give us the effect of snow. So I'm not sure if you can see on the camera, but there's the effect of the salt once you remove the salt when it's dry. So you see it lifts the paint right from the spot where the salt was sitting. There's another example. And this is a different example. So hopefully that gives you a sample of what it does. So everyone is going to look different. They'll all look similar, but they will look different. So now I want to dry this project. So we'll need to use the blow dryer. And if we have little lines in throughout, this one goes down a little bit, you know, it's whatever it is, it's not anything to worry about. As long as we've got that dark, a little bit of pink in the center, dark on the outside corner, coming down the top, it's going to be beautiful, believe me, really. Just trust the process. So we still have lots more work to do with this, but at this point, we're done the outside, the background of our picture, except for the blow drying. So I'm going to mute my camera so you don't hear the blow dryer going. But we'll blow dry, and it may take more than a minute. It might take 2.5 minutes. So just take your time. Don't rush at it. And really, it's not important for you to try and get that salt off yet. We need to have it dry before we try to take the salt off. If you try to take the salt off in advance and it's not dry, it will get blurry and you'll end up with fingerprints in it. You could use warm air or cool air. It's up to you. Hot air may affect your paper. It may lift it a little bit, so cool to warm air. So just let it dry with the blow dryer. It will take maybe 2.5 minutes. So I'm just going to mute, and here we go. And Anne says she feels like she's doing a science experiment. It's going to turn out really cool. I think you'll like it. So because this is fairly messy, taking this off, if you have a garbage can you want to do this over, then that's maybe a good idea, or over a sink. I'm just going to lay down some paper towel here so that when I'm finished, I'll just be able to pick this all up. But I'm just going to lay down some paper towel just as a covering just in front here. And I'm going to use my fingers. And I'm just going to start to rub off the salt. You can probably hear that. You might end up with some really smooth fingertips. And if you're getting paint on your hands, your paper isn't dry. So go back and blow dry a little bit more. But so we just want to rub until you've removed the salt. And you can see I'm starting to get some nice little pitted spots in my canvas. So if I hold it close, you'll see. I've got some nice little spots there. I wouldn't have been able to paint that on. The only way that you can get this is by using some kind of block or something that removes the paint. So again, I'm just going to continue. As long as I can hear that noise, I know I'm taking salt off. So, and when it's a nice smooth finish, I know that my salt is gone. So you see, it's just a little bit messy. I've got a little bit, I've missed the table or missed the paper towel a little bit, but I'll be able to just scoop that into the garbage can. So at least it's all in one place. So yeah, we just go ahead and take that salt back off. And we'll have a look at our canvas and decide where do we want our forest to start? So I'm using a number 2 brush. This is a number 2. I don't know if you're able to see that on your own brushes, but this is a number 2. All right, so I'm going back into my indigo or my dark blue, whatever it was that you used. And I'm going to decide where do I want my forest to start. So because I've got this red up so high, I'm going to use that as the bottom of my sky. Now, you could start lower if your red has run lower. That's up to you. As I've shown, this one's a little bit higher. This one's a little bit lower. So because where that red ends is sort of the indicator. And there's another one. So I've let that red is really run into the bottom. So that was a little deeper. So I'm just going to do a line, and I'm not going all the way across. I'm stopping before I get halfway on one side. I'm just doing a straight line or sort of straight line. I'm using the indigo, and because it's a fresh color and it's color on top of color, it will look a lot darker. So I just have a line, not even halfway across. I didn't want to go all the way to the half. And along this line, I'm going to just draw some sticks or some tree trunks. I'm just painting them straight up. They can be shorter or taller. But as I get to the center, I want them to be a little bit smaller. Just in this area, I want them to be smaller. So I'm just doing I'm touching my brush on my canvas at the line, going up. And when I get to the top, I just lift the brush off and it gives me that point at the top. And if this is stressful, take a deep breath. It's going to be good. It's going to be great. Don't worry. Now, still working with this indigo, I want you to think like a swizzle stick. Let's see if I can find a page to give you a sample. So I have a line. I have some sticks going up all different directions, small, little, big. And on one of them, if I just take one, for example, I'm going to just do like a swizzle stick coming up, smaller when I get to the top. And then if I want to fill this in further, I can start just to put some branches just sticking out here, there. They don't have to be perfect. So that's what I'm going to do to make my trees. I'm going to do like a swizzle stick, and then I'm going to add some branches just to make that into a tree. So working on my canvas, if you need to, take a deep breath before you hit your canvas, swizzle stick going up. Use this large one for an example. I'm just going from side to side, just zigzag. Just when I get to the top. And I can fill in larger branches or smaller, just poking out different places, just to give it, it's a silhouette, just to give it that look of a tree in the distance. I'll use the next larger tree, the trunk, Do the same. It's larger at the bottom, smaller at the top. And then I'll fill in some branches just to give it a little bit more growth. And the next largest tree, I'll do the same thing along the bottom. Just go zigzag from side to side, larger at the bottom, smaller at the top. These kinds of trees don't have the perfect top. Lots of times they have like a V bud at the top, or they have just one sticking off to the side, just one branch. So these are evergreens. Thanks, Lorraine. And then I will use this next one close to the edge, larger at the bottom, smaller at the top. Just adding a few branches. And I've got these little trees here. I've got a fair size one in here. So and I want it to be fairly sparse. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of branches. I've got these little tiny ones. I might just want to do a couple of little sticks on them. And while you're working on that side, if you're still finishing your trees, I'll read our card today, which is an affirmation card. And it says, if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. That's by Jack Cornfield. Forgive yourself for yesterday's mistakes. Practice gratitude for the present moment. If your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. Forgive yourself for yesterday's mistakes and practice gratitude for the present moment. I like that. And I have heard that you can't be in a state of sadness and gratitude at the same time. So if you need to be happy about something, it will take away your sadness if you're able to get yourself in that frame of mind. Now I'm going to move to the other side of the canvas with the same color, still with the indigo. And I'm going to follow the same line. I think I'm going to just drag my line down just a little bit so that it gives that forest opening. So as I go across from the outside edge, I'm just going to bring it down a little bit. So I think I'll bring that to a point, and I'll start to create some more tree trunks. Now we still have a lot more to do, so if it's not what you like at this point, be patient, it's coming. So now the same that I did those trees on the right-hand side, I'm going to use the same zigzag fashion, small at the bottom, or sorry, large at the bottom, smaller at the top. Always wider at the bottom, and then just kind of growing up. So we have a forest, and we need to have some foreground. So if you're this far, I'm going to use my number 6 brush. I've just put it in water. It's dampened. I've tapped it off on paper towel so it's not completely soaking wet, but it is damp. And I'm going to run it along the bottom of my line. And you can see when I do that, I'm starting to pull some paint out. So I'm pulling some paint out and making the look of snow. So I'm just using the side of my brush and just running it along. Just running it along, and I don't need to fill in all of the bottom. I still want to leave some white spaces, but it will now start to give the look of a flowing, soft snow hill. I can also take a little bit of that and just run it along the bottom of my pink sky, just indicating that's forest back there. And I want some of my hills to come downwards, some of them to run into that hill. So there's a bit of a crevice. I ran it along the dark bottom color of my forest and picked up some of that color. So I'm just using the side of my brush and just moving some of that paint just to give the look of a hill or a valley, the look of snow, and the look of some shadows. So I did on one side and then I moved over to the other side and actually brought some right down to look like it's a nice little canyon here. And I ran a little bit in the background, just a little. I didn't add any color. I'm only working with what's already on my dampened brush. So I'm just moving paint around a little bit. So you can see just by putting that shadow in there, gives the look that this forest goes well beyond what we see in the foreground. So this is the part where you can play with your color and see what happens when you put a brush and you use your brush with this angle, or you go flat on, or if you just use the tip, what happens. So it almost looks in mine at this point where the snow is starting to melt and is going to cause like a little river coming down here. That would be beautiful in the spring. And who knows what you've created. And if you've got that far with your dampened brush, you clean your brush off, get it damp again with clear water, and you can start just to create the look of some trees in the background just by pulling up. Is the paper canvas. This is a piece of paper. This is watercolor paper. And it's just taped. This is just painter's tape that I pick up from an inexpensive store just to put around the border. So I'm just pulling with my dampened brush from the bottom. I'm just pulling up a few little lines to look like trees in between, and they'll be lighter than the trees that I already put there. So you can see that they have a gray look to them. Even though it is indigo that's coming up, it's just watered down because my brush is damp. So I'm just pulling up so that it looks like there's some more trees in the background. Now I'm just going to go ahead on my trees and just add a little bit more. It's the rain. So I'm just going to add a few little branches onto my trees. The ones on this side look a little sparse, so I'm just going to beef them up a little bit. And if you need to do that, this is a good time to do that. And it's also okay when you're painting trees, if you just put a couple of little dots in close by them, they'll look like they're part of the tree. Your eye will automatically fill in the area that's missing, even if it's not touching the tree. So if you look at this tree, it looks like from a distance that this is part of the tree, but I put those two little dots in there. If I put another one up here at the top, if I hold this picture back, so there's some little dots around that tree. But if I hold that picture back, it looks like it's part of the tree. So your eye will naturally fill in that gap. And if you like to, you can add a little bit of dark to your foreground. That's up to you. If you put it in and you think, oh, it's too dark, I don't want it quite that dark, then just by using a dampened brush, you can soften that color. If you added more water, you could just about remove that all together. So give you a nice smoky look. Don't be afraid to try color and see what it does and see if it works for you. And if it doesn't, watercolor is very forgiving that way, that just by adding a little bit more water, you can change what's happening with your picture. And now we've come to the part where we'll want to sign our art. So decide where it is you want to put your signature, but before we're finished our art, we're going to take the tape off so you can see it with the border with it exposed. So sign your art wherever you're comfortable. And it's also up to you if you decide, oh, some of those trees look a little bit short, so I'm going to make one a little bit taller. Maybe I'll give this tree just a little extra height, looks a little bit short there. I might want to extend one over here. But when you're putting your trees and your objects in on your painting, try to have your visual come into the picture rather than go out. So not to put the really a big sun over here, because then your vision is going that way and you want it to come into the picture. And so there we go. We have our picture done. Hopefully you're happy with that. You've learned something. You've had some fun with it. And now is the time we take the tape off. So when we take the tape off our picture, and I tell you this from experience, you want to move your tape from the inside of the canvas. Let me move my paint. You want to move from the inside of your canvas, gently going away from your picture, not pulling toward, but going away. So we're pulling from the inside out, gently, I say sometimes painfully slow. So away from the picture, from the inside out. Again, at the bottom, not to get impatient, go from the inside out. It's really easy to rip your canvas, and you've done all this work. It would be a shame if that happened. And so when I take my picture off the background, you can see I have a nice border around my picture for framing. And look, we did that in less than an hour. So good for you guys. And now you've used salt, you've used a spray gun. Now there were some people that had asked about the lighthouse, part 2 of the lighthouse, and it just came out today. So Troy has just emailed that. So if you have a look on the email that you got under the photo gallery, you will find now the lighthouse part 2.
And on our YouTube channel.
Okay, there we go. That's nice, Kat. I like your sky too. So some people are ready, some are not, some are still signing, some are still taking their tape off the outside. And I know Nancy likes to leave her tape on, but I'm going to invite you today, Nancy, to take your tape off the outside and see what your border looks like. Oh, wow, that's beautiful. They're coming along. They're beautiful. They're very nice. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. Oh, Margie, nice.
Mine's still wet.
Okay, well, you won't have to hold it up against the camera. Are you able to just turn your canvas around?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Nice soft sky, Paula. Oh, Karen, you got a nice soft sky too. Yeah. Oh, darling. Look, you know what? I could comment on everyone's. Oh my gosh, they're just beautiful. So when you're finished with this, when we're all done, if you take this and you put it on a window ledge or lean it up against on your dresser or somewhere and come back a few minutes later and have a look, I think you'll be stunned at how beautiful they are. So I hope you enjoyed that. That was fun to teach, a little bit different.